The drama surrounding the WNBA right now feels less like a labor negotiation and more like a slow-motion collapse unfolding in real time. What was supposed to be a pivotal good-faith meeting between the league's owners and the Players Association instead became a stark illustration of just how far apart the two sides truly are. For 3 long hours inside league offices in New York City, representatives sat across from each other with the season clock ticking loudly in the background. Less than 100 days remained before tip-off, and yet nothing moved forward. No progress, no compromise, no momentum. The owners arrived without a counterproposal, signaling immediately that their position was final. The union arrived hoping for something different, only to realize almost instantly that this was not a negotiation at all, but a rigid explanation of already entrenched stances. That opening moment set the tone for everything that followed. Instead of bargaining, both sides spent hours reiterating their logic, restating why their previous proposals made sense, and defending their worldview. The priority, according to sources familiar with the room, was supposedly connection and dialogue, a chance to ask questions and understand motivations. But when one side shows up empty-handed and the other shows up expecting movement, connection quickly turns into frustration. The result was a meeting that felt ceremonial rather than productive, a box checked instead of a bridge built. With the season looming, that is a terrifying place for any professional league to be. What makes the situation even more volatile is that this disagreement goes far beyond raw numbers. It is not simply about how much money players should make. It is about whether the two sides even agree on what negotiating in good faith looks like anymore. That kind of distrust this late in the process is a flashing red warning sign. When deadlines approach and positions harden, labor disputes rarely end cleanly. They end in panic, pressure, or outright collapse. The WNBA is now staring directly at that fork in the road. The optics of the meeting only added fuel to the fire. While several prominent players were present, 2 of the biggest names expected to attend in person did not. Instead, they joined remotely for what was arguably the most consequential meeting in league history. In isolation, dialing in might seem harmless, even practical. But in the context of a fragile negotiation, it read as detachment. When owners and executives are physically in the room and star player representatives are not, it sends a message whether intended or not. In moments like these, perception matters almost as much as substance, and the perception was chaos. At the center of the conflict is the league's proposal, one the owners believe is both generous and grounded in financial reality. The structure would dramatically increase player compensation, with maximum salaries climbing rapidly over the life of the deal. What is often understated is the scale of that increase. This is not a marginal raise or symbolic gesture. It represents a massive leap from current salary levels, a fundamental reshaping of what it means to be a professional player in the league. From the owner's perspective, this is already a risk. The WNBA has never operated at a sustained profit and continues to rely heavily on external support. Offering such increases is a bet on future growth rather than a reflection of present stability. The union, however, is focused on something deeper than salary figures alone. Their demand centers on revenue sharing, on restructuring the economic relationship between players and the league itself. In theory, it is an understandable goal. In practice, it collides head-on with the league's financial history. You cannot divide profits that do not exist, and that mathematical reality is where ideology meets resistance. The owners are not approaching this as a moral argument or a cultural statement. They are approaching it as a business decision rooted in balance sheets, losses, and long-term sustainability. This philosophical divide was made even more pronounced by who was brought into the conversation. Instead of financial experts, economists, or industry specialists, the union leaned on political and labor figures to reinforce its stance. That choice reframed the negotiation entirely. What could have been a technical debate over models and projections became a symbolic confrontation between activism and enterprise. To the owners, it likely felt as though the discussion had drifted away from basketball altogether. When one side speaks the language of growth curves and operating losses, and the other speaks the language of principle and systemic change, the room quickly fills with noise rather than solutions. Behind the scenes, signs of internal tension within the union have begun to surface. While leadership has publicly denied any division, reports suggest differing priorities among players themselves. Some view this moment as the time to push aggressively for structural change, even if it risks a work stoppage. Others see the proposed deal and wonder whether walking away from such a dramatic increase in pay makes sense when most players rely on the season to survive financially. That tension is inevitable when stars with global opportunities and endorsements negotiate on behalf of players whose livelihoods depend on every paycheck. Unity becomes fragile when the stakes are uneven. Hovering over all of this is the undeniable force driving the league's recent surge in relevance. The WNBA just experienced its most visible and commercially successful season in years, largely due to unprecedented attention around new talent and record-breaking viewership. That momentum is the very thing making these salary increases possible. Yet the negotiations unfolding now threaten to stall or even erase that progress. Momentum in sports is fragile. Fans who arrived out of curiosity do not stick around through prolonged labor battles. Sponsors who just committed resources do not wait patiently through uncertainty. Growth can reverse far faster than it was built. The owners understand this, which is why their stance is so firm. From their perspective, this is the offer. Accept it, and the league moves forward stronger and more stable than ever before. Reject it, and the consequences could be severe. They know a lost season hurts players more than ownership. Billionaires can absorb a pause. Most athletes cannot. That imbalance of leverage is uncomfortable, but it is real, and it is shaping every decision being made. As the days tick down, the sense of urgency intensifies. Training camps, roster moves, marketing plans, and broadcast schedules all depend on a finalized agreement. Without it, everything freezes. What makes this moment so unsettling is how avoidable the crisis feels. There is a path where players accept a transformative financial win, continue growing the league, and revisit deeper structural changes once profitability catches up with popularity. There is also a path where principle overrides pragmatism, leading to a strike that could undo years of progress in a single summer. This is no longer just a negotiation. It is a referendum on leadership, priorities, and vision for the future of the league. The next few weeks will determine whether the WNBA capitalizes on its momentum or squanders it at the negotiating table. The clock is loud now, and it is unforgiving. If you care about the future of the WNBA, this is the moment to pay attention. Do you think the players should take the deal on the table and keep the season alive, or should they hold out for revenue sharing even if it risks everything they have built?